Tell me, why do the children...
Richard Louv's book, Last Child in the Woods. He brought to the front nature deficit disorder, which isn't actually a medical term yet, but he coined the term nature deficit disorder, showing that kids have not been connecting with nature.
Children in their formative years have been going outside and spending much of their time either playing or working in nature, all of human history and prehistory. Within a matter of 2 or 3 decades, we're seeing the possible virtual disappearance of that kind of activity among kids. So it's in us, it's part of us. We're genetically wired to need nature.
Some of the startling points Louv made in his book? The radius around the home where children were allowed to roam on their own had shrunk to 1/9 of what it had been 20 years earlier. Antidepressant prescriptions for children have doubled in 5 years' time.
They're 6 times more likely to play a video game than to get out and ride a bike.
If a child watches 6 hours of TV and video games a day, which is the average American child's routine, for every hour they're on TV, they have a 10% increased chance of having ADD by the time they're 7 or 8. Now, isn't that amazing?
How did such a dilemma come about?
We've seen the emergence of electronic cultures. We've seen the change in the family structure. We've seen a change in the work relationship of people to the land. And all of those things now have taken people out of direct contact with nature on a daily basis.
When America began changing from a primarily agricultural society to an urban one, the distance between people and the land lengthened.
When I was a child, I grew up on 30 acres, and when I was bored, I would go out and run in the woods full speed. And just run and chase things and do whatever. Today, when kids are bored, they just turn on the TV or play computer games or get out their little Game Boy.
They didn't grow up on a farm, or their parents didn't grow up on a farm. And for a lot of people, maybe even their grandparents didn't grow up on a farm. And so you don't have that connection.
Has it gotten to a point today where people actually fear being away from the perceived safety of their homes?
Parents talk about, of course, being too busy, and they talk about electronics, the distraction of electronic video games and television and all of that. But when you really get to it, what parents talk about more than anything is their fear of strangers, of people. And that's why they don't want their kids going outdoors.
I have to, when they come out, instill in them, tell them that it's going to be okay. They're not going to be attacked by an alligator or something coming at them. So once they feel safe in nature, then their eyes open.
If they're with a friend, fine, but we don't let them go out looking for friends or go out by themselves unless someone's with them.
People are afraid of stranger danger, and I had to deal with that with lots of principals who are afraid to put on natural areas on their school grounds and convert them for lawns because they're afraid perverts would be in the woods. Even though Duke University did a study and shows that since 1974 there are fewer abductions and fewer cases of child abuse today than there were in 1974.
Pedophiles, strangers, violence, other kids not being polite or being mean to our kids.
Richard Louv's book underscored what environmental educators had been predicting for decades would be the shakeout of such fears. It aroused and mobilized nature-based organizations across the nation.
In December of 2007, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service had its first ever workshop connecting people with nature. Not just children, but families and people with nature.
Everybody kind of got excited. We started to come up with a plan. A number of the other national organizations then moved forward and created a follow-up conference that was much larger in scale, embraced a lot larger audience, including elected political leaders. And that's led to a bill now of No Child Left Indoors, kind of the parallel to No Child Left Behind.
Westland and Hammond both attended the workshop. They learned the big picture assumptions about the links between nature deficit disorder and obesity, diabetes, attention deficit disorder, otherwise known as ADD, and possibly even autism.
With ADD kids, several research studies have showed if they just get a half hour before school starts, being able to play out in the woods or in a playground that's natural-based, not a paved playground, that many of them don't need any medication for the rest of the day, or at least their medications can be reduced.
A new mission was born to spread the message that not only can interaction with nature prevent ills, it can enhance creativity, spirituality, and problem-solving skills.
When you're out in natural systems, you see things that are unexpected. You don't control things. And so your brain has to figure out what's going on here, patterns and relationships. So if you want to increase your child's healthy, in terms of mental health, physical health, and emotional health, the more experience they have outdoors, the more personal connection they build to problem solving.
Other organizations formed on the heels of the groundbreaking workshop. Florida took up the initiative with its Get Outdoors Florida program.
The Get Outdoors Florida program was just an effort by just a broad coalition of state and federal and smaller local county land management agencies, as well as nonprofits, to kind of organize together to really address the issue of people don't get outside as much as they used to. They don't have that connection with the land.
In response to the program's call to action, Weston has stepped up public awareness efforts at Okaloakuchi Slough State Forest near LaBelle.
We have programs where we're doing some water spraying for kids off of our fire trucks. We also have some coloring programs, but then also it's identify plants, learn about good plants, learn about bad plants.
Programs such as this, and at other natural areas in the region, reconnect children to nature at a time when school environmental education budgets are being cut.
Lee County school systems has been one of the national leaders. We still have more people employed in environmental education as a school system than almost anybody else in Florida.
Hammond fathered the environmental education program in Lee County schools back in the early 1970s. He blames slights to nature-oriented curriculum on today's standardized testing, minimum classroom size legislation, and reductions in recess and physical education class.
Our approach in Lee County is don't go to the federal government and the state government and ask for help. Let's solve the problem here locally. So we formed a not-for-profit foundation called the Southwest Florida Council on Environment Education.
Ding Darling has picked up some of the slack with donor-funded bus trips to the Refuge that do not rely on school district resources. On an out-of-classroom level, it promotes the message in ways that gets kids' attention.
We're embracing technology because we have to, by earth caching. And it was actually school children that brought this to my attention.
Today's parents have less time to engage with their children outdoors, and that contributes to the problem. Often they don't know how.
You can go to a state park, you can go to a city park, you can just get out with your children and explore in your own backyard. Take them fishing, lay in the grass, look up at the clouds and study the clouds.
Researchers are predicting that this could be the first generation of children that will not outlive their parents. Is there a way to reverse the dire predictions? Is nature deficit disorder curable?
I believe it is. And not only that, the prescription is really pretty cheap. Just get outdoors, go for a walk, go to the beach, sail a boat, dip a net.